What's going on, guys? Welcome back to round 4 of our first season here at the helm of the Haas F1 team. We are coming into Imola this week for our race here in the 4th round. We are trying to continue to build some momentum going into this season. I think it's definitely something easier said than done, and we have our first regulation vote of the season as well. We have some minor technical changes being presented here, and it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be a very, very fun portion of this game with these regulation votes. It looks like they are trying to make a bit of a minor technical regulation change that will hopefully make things a little closer between all the teams. And it looks like regardless what's going to happen, we're going to be losing some performance in terms of in terms of the performance of the car. And I think we vote against or for the technical change. I can't remember exactly which. I think we voted to hopefully try and narrow the gap in the field a little bit. We'll see if that ends up coming to fruition here in a little bit. Moving on through the rest of our emails, we have Mick has a little bit of low morale. I think that's a little bit to be expected. He's kind of struggled so far this season, and so far it looks like kind of everyone has a little bit of low morale after a few rounds here where nothing has kind of happened. And so we are trying to do our best here, but nonetheless, we definitely need to make some changes. We're taking a look at our staff here and potentially trying to see if we can make some moves here as we continue to move into our 4th round here, as we continue to get good grips of our first season at the helm of the Haas F1 team. And so we're going to take a look at some race engineers potentially looking to improve our race engineers, trying to make things a little better here. We're currently scouting Mario here, trying to replace Gary Gannon, who I believe is Mick's race engineer as of right now. He's a little bit better, but also quite a bit younger. And so we may be looking to, we're currently scouting him, and we'll get an idea of what he looks like going forward. But we may just go ahead and try, even without the scouting, try and see if we can make something happen here. We'll take a look and get our first opportunity here to try and see what it takes to hire a race engineer. I think it's going to be very interesting. We'll go ahead and send our first proposal over there. It looks like he wants a little more than one season and probably wants a little bit more than $150,000 a year. We'll bump that up here to 2 seasons. I think this is my as a first opportunity in negotiating for a new replacement. I think we're going to see exactly what it takes to hire a race engineer. I think something that definitely would have helped is actually finishing the scouting of Mario here. I think we were a little keen to try and pick things up and try and make a little bit of a change for Mick, trying to see what it will take here. We'll send over a 4-season contract for $200,000, and it doesn't look like that's going to work for Mario here. And really, I'm not that surprised. He has low patience for us as of right now, and so I think all in all, I think he's going to leave us in the dust here. I think we'll learn later that lowballing them by that much is definitely not going to be quite the right tact to take when it comes to proposing a contract to a potential new race engineer. So we will see. We can see our regulation vote has come in, and it looks like the majority of the grid here have actually voted for the more major regulation changes, technical regulation changes. So the next season's car is going to be looking very, very much different than this season. And so we're gonna have to do a lot of preparing for the next season here as we are continuing to work on moving forward here in our first season. I think we did some new reserve driver scouting. I think Theo Porcher here might have a great opportunity to come in as our reserve driver. He's very young, already 72 rated. Definitely, I don't think probably the best young prospect in the game, but I think we are definitely taking a look. And as compared to our current reserve driver, Theo definitely seems to fit the bill a lot better than Pietro Fittipaldi, who is our current reserve driver. So I think we're going to go ahead and take a look at his contract here and see what we can do to potentially get Theo Porcher over towards our reserve driver role and potentially see what he can do in our car over the course of the season. to potentially try and build him up should we need him in the future. So let's go ahead. Our second bout here of contract negotiation, and we have the ever crucial advantage in this one of being able to see what his current contract looks like. Obviously his salary of 320,000. We know what we definitely need to at least minimally shoot for. And I think it'll go relatively well, just because even if the salary isn't exactly what he wanted, it is exactly the same. He will be moving up from F2 into a reserve driver role. And so we will go ahead, break that contract, and we have hired a new driver in Theo Porcher. He will replace Pietro Fittipaldi as our reserve driver. And now we head back, now that we can actually see, and see, this is the important thing that I mentioned. Now that we have finished scouting on Mario here, we actually get to see what his current salary is, and we know that lowballing him to the tune of less than $250,000 a year is probably not going to be enough. And so we will go ahead, offer him $800,000 and a $15,000 starting bonus, and see if he wants to come over to the Haas F1 team. And a will indeed. That 3 seasons is probably about exactly where we want it to be. I think in the future we potentially will probably be moving forward more than not. But we are, finishing up practice 1 here, trying to take a look at the results. We see that Theo in his first session in the seat actually ends up going P4. I know the practice sessions get a little odd over the course of this game, so they're not exactly indicative of true race pace, as we've definitely seen in the past. But it was nice to see Theo get out there and actually perform slightly better than Mick in terms of putting him in free practice 1. So we're not going to spend too much time in practice sessions here in the YouTube videos, but over on my Twitch streams, we definitely spend a lot more time in practice sessions. If that's kind of interests you, you can always catch me live over on Twitch. But now we'll head over towards qualifying for Imola. Here we are in Q1. We are sending Mick out first, Kevin shortly behind, trying to avoid as much traffic as possible here, as Mick will get ready to start his first flying lap here in Imola. And we are very excited to see what kind of times we can put down here. As we know, things will advance as these sessions go on, but nonetheless, we will keep an eye on both drivers' sector times here. Obviously, it will be a little less indicative now as the second round out, but nonetheless, we run into a little bit of traffic potential here, as it looks like an Aston Martin has decided that it wants to come out immediately as we're about to cross these across the pit exit. So I think Mick is definitely going to be in a bit of a disadvantage here, running into the back of one of the Aston Martins there. We don't think we know exactly which, but Mick, we know, is definitely going to have to get another go, and I think Kevin also will definitely be held up by that Aston Martin as well. And so more than likely, both of these times are going to be a lot less indicative of the final, qualifying pace that we'll have here around Imola. So we're definitely going to have to keep that in mind as we make our way here through the second sector, trying to see what kind of lines, what kind of things we can expect from Mick here and Kevin on our qualifying pace here. So we are just kind of waiting at this point. We see that Valtteri Bottas comes home and finishes his first lap in a 1:16.3. George Russell actually usurps Valtteri here to go 1:16.3. Looks like Valtteri runs about a 1:16.4. As Mick will come down towards the line here, we'll see how we stack up against those two. And Mick goes 1.3 seconds off of George Russell, so it looks like we're running about a 1:17.6 with Mick, and Kevin crosses the line and actually I think got held up a lot more by the Aston Martins there on that lap. So a not very indicative time here, but here we are. We find ourselves at the end of Q1, sending out our guys, and I think we may have sent Kevin a little too late here. I think we've tried to ride that line a little fine. We're going to keep an eye on that timer in the top left. I think Mick will just be okay. I'm hope actually, as the time is ticking down, an absolute masterclass of disaster by me at the end of this qualifying session, as both drivers failed to get to the line, and that does not bode well for us at all. Kevin will not make it out of Q1 as we fail to set a relatively right time, and Kevin actually is knocked out in P16. Thankfully though, I think qualifying the first laps actually allowed Mick to make it into Q2, even though he did not set another time. So very, very lucky that we get any drivers here into Q2, but very unlucky that we could not get Kevin a more indicative time of his pace here around Imola. as we just absolutely mess up royally in the timing of sending them out. We try and give them as much free air as possible at the end of each qualifying session, but at the same time, when you do that, you run the risk of one, running into a potential flag during the qualifying session, as well as not making it to the start finish line here. As we take a look and get Mick set up for his next go around, we only have one set of fresh softs here, so we're going to make a decision whether or not we want to send Mick out again early, or if we want to save that last set of fresh tires for right at the end. And it looks like we are going to opt to send Mick out right at the end of the session, try and see if we can secure him a Q3 spot here. So we're going to keep an eye out. We're going to send Mick out first, actually, and trying to get him out ahead of the rest of the pack here in Q2. About 1.8 seconds off the pace as of right now, but there's a lot of names behind us that can absolutely usurp Mick's position, so he's going to need to put in a pretty stonking lap here to round out Q2. So we'll go ahead and speed this up. We'll keep an eye on those sector markers down in the bottom left, trying to make sure that Mick is going faster and faster than he has previously. As he goes green first sector, that is a fantastic start for Mick here. Unfortunately, it's followed up immediately by a yellow middle sector, a little less impressive. But as we come and cross the finish line, Mick finishes 1.8 seconds off the pace and actually will fall all the way to P15 there. A really unlucky day of qualifying for Mick, but
here we
nonetheless,
are, folks.
let's head to the
We're back
race.
for another day of scintillating F1 action. It's race day.
Haas met their potential in qualifying, and they'll be expected to make a good start from the grid. Let's see if they can make it work for them. We didn't see any unexpected prowess from Alpine during qualifying, but they did well for themselves. Everything's still open to them for the race. And the sun is shining bright here today. This is perfect weather for teams and drivers alike to show us what they're capable of.
And seeing it all come together is sure to be a thrill. An exciting race ahead for us here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix.
The race Sunday has arrived, and it's time to get our strategy dialed in here. And for the first time this season, we are actually going to be playing with the idea of starting a little lower on fuel as compared to, the total necessary laps. We're going to play around with this and see if it's easier or more difficult to try and save fuel at the beginning, or if it's worth going out there fully fueled and trying to work on it. So it looks like it's going to be a one-stop race here. We are going to start, Mick, it looks like, on the medium tire, potentially looking to play around with the pit window options, seeing if we can potentially look to extend that medium tire stint if at all possible. But for nonetheless, there's going to be a one-stop kind of day. I think we'll go with a very similar strategy for both drivers here, trying to look to pitting between laps 25 and 30, somewhere around there, probably somewhere closer to lap 26 it looks like. And we can see that we actually can manage to not learn how to update strategies when you make small changes like that. And so we will learn that hopefully as we go. But for now, we know that the tires will make it based on those quick peeks into what the potentials are. We're going to try and see if we can set snow. So
it's bright and sunny as the drivers line up on the grid. There we see Kevin Magnussen. And it's Schumacher as the second driver today. With their starting position in the back 10, they'll have their work cut out for them. Everything's been building to this. The crowd are on their feet in anticipation of this, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
Lights out and away we go here in Imola. We are setting them up to move off the line a little faster, setting them on overtake, seeing if we can get anything done here on this opening sector here. I think this is where a very important sector for us is. We definitely need to try and make up as many easy positions as we can before we get deeper into the race and the field definitely starts to spread out more than not. But nonetheless, we are moving forward now. And what I was going to say before we hit the opening cinematic for the race is that you have the option to set the driver driving pattern at before the race actually starts, so you can set them to start aggressive and pushing on fuel, and starting on overtake instead of having to try and get those set immediately after the lights go out. And it definitely makes it a lot easier. We will discover that as the season rolls on. But for now, we are making our way here through the first lap. Kevin up into P15, Mick currently sitting in P17 as we begin lap 3 here. We'll move them back to neutral. I think we ran them a little long on the ERS setting, so we're going to be a little low on electricity stores here as we continue on with this one. But it looks like Kevin has found himself a bit of a small pack here with Daniel Ricciardo and the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki here on the hard tire definitely going to be very interesting. Definitely need to be working on getting past him if at all possible with our current strategy. We also saw, as we were checking the tires of everyone around us, a couple of soft tire runners, which is very interesting here. As it looks like the Aston Martin runs a little wide, and unfortunately Mick couldn't make the move stick with Seb there running a little wide in that middle sector. And so an unfortunate move, as you know, that's going to lose Mick a lot of time and definitely disconnect him from the rest of the field here as we run here in the back half of the grid. Taking a look around the rest of the circuit, it looks like there's a very long DRS train currently running from what looks to be George Russell all the way to Tenton Zhou Guanyu, who just drops out of DRS range, but that would have gone all the way down to P12 and Pierre Gasly before a small drop off now towards what is Daniel Ricciardo in P13. But Carlos Sainz, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc leading this one with Sergio Perez right behind. Definitely a theme so far this season, and a theme I think we'll see very much so, as those two teams definitely have a much different level of pace as compared to the rest of us. And so it's going to be a long season trying to be the best of the rest, as the Mercedes definitely have the next best car as they currently run 5 and 6. Followed up by the Alfa Romeo of Valtteri Bottas, the Alpines of Esteban Ocon, followed by Fernando Alonso. The first McLaren in Lando Norris finishing out the points positions here in P10 as Kevin gets the move done on Tsunoda and moves up into P14 now, making a big push towards making the next move over Daniel Ricciardo. As we're trying to manage everything as best we can, we're trying to build up ERS, as we know how important the ERS is in this game, or in this motorsport series. And so the more ERS we can have in a race, the better. That we're definitely seeing the result of running them on ERS through those first couple of laps when you really didn't provide much benefit, and now we're trying to find ways to continue to build that ERS store. Unfortunately though, when you run on harvest, even not on neutral, you definitely will drop off a lot of pace here as we actually take a bit of a peek in at that front pack. The two Ferraris and Max Verstappen battling it out ahead. Max has been a big Ferrari sandwich so far, and Sergio Perez really not able to hold on to that pack of the front three, a full 4.5 seconds off of the pace here as we are on lap 10 here in Imola. Taking a look around, see how we're doing. Kevin 1.8 seconds off the back of Daniel Ricciardo, and Mick definitely also falling a bit off the pack here. Mick did get by Sebastian Vettel, but now finds himself 2.6 seconds off the back of Yuki Tsunoda. And so it's going to be a tough task asking them to close up those gaps here, especially with the free air that Daniel also has against Pierre Gasly, as well as Mick having so much free air in front of him. Hopefully will mean much, but unfortunately, they also find themselves in a two car pack and a 3 car pack when it comes to trying to defend from DRS here, as we see an AlphaTauri going wide exiting that corner. A bit of a frustration for them, but it should maybe provide us an opportunity to close the gap now, as it was Yuki Tsunoda who runs a bit wide, and now Mick finds himself within near, or at least DRS range of the AlphaTauri. Potential here as taking advantage of the mistake made by the AlphaTauri driver. And so Mick hopefully is going to be able to close that distance as much as possible and hopefully get within DRS range of Yuki here, as we're just maintaining and checking our tire situation, making sure everything looks a-okay, as right now we don't need any major mistakes when it comes to strategy. And so we are trying to keep an eye on everything as much as possible. Mick running a little low on fuel delta at this point. We'll hopefully be able to make that up eventually. Kevin also 1.7 laps down is definitely something we're going to have to keep a major eye on around Imola here, especially with all this free air, trying to push as much as we can to catch up to the back of the pack, but it could come and spell doom for us if we don't manage our fuel well down the back end of this race. But as we are making our way through the first sector into the second sector here, we are trying to just, settle in. Definitely not fighting for too much success as of this point, but we are definitely nearing the first round of pit stops here, as we see Gasly and Norris enter the pits for the first time. The only two soft runners so far that we've seen. So they pit nice and early here on lap 16, as they really weren't able to make up too much ground, it looked like, on that soft compound. And so, we're gonna see if it works out for them. But for us right now, that moves us up into P12 and P14. And so we are ever so close to the points making positions here, as Kevin finds himself in a DRS train up to Zhou Guanyu, who's currently running up into P10, following Daniel Ricciardo, and then Daniel following the Alfa Romeo that I just mentioned. And it looks like Kevin gets the move done on Daniel Ricciardo. So Kevin up into P11 here. Mick just on the back of Yuki Tsunoda. We're staying on board with Mick here, trying to see if we can get the move done. We're just going to tell him to relax a little bit, stay in DRS range of the AlphaTauri, and if he sees an opportunity, make full use of it. But we're trying not to micromanage if at all possible. We're definitely keeping an eye on Kevin here, trying to harvest some ERS. Definitely not trying to, blow our load too soon with trying to overtake Zhou, as there is a full 8.5 second gap ahead that we will need to contend with. But for now, we are just trying to, we're just trying to make it through this thing, trying to stay within fighting distance. We have broken DRS behind to Daniel Ricciardo, who's dropped off by about 1.7 seconds off the pace. And so it's going to be just, Kevin and Zhou here fighting for that last points playing position in this one, as well as Mick, who's dropped 7 seconds to Daniel Ricciardo and is still battling Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri. So Mick is definitely losing a lot of time as compared to the rest of the field fighting the AlphaTauri. And Kevin is doing exactly what we said, just trying to stay within DRS of Zhou here, trying to, create a little bit of distance behind to keep any potential later overtakes off the board, or at least forcing them to, make something crazy happen here as we near ever closer to our pit window here on lap 23. Taking a look and seeing if we can get Kevin to make a bit of a move here, especially as we enter our pit window. We definitely want to be pushing as much as possible here. And if we can get around Zhou there, we can definitely push a lot harder on our way into our in-lap towards our only pit stop of the day. So Mick also finding himself at the back of the AlphaTauri. Still that 6 second gap ahead to Daniel Ricciardo. But nonetheless, we want Mick to be able to make this move and be able to make it stick, and then be able to put in a little bit of time into the gap ahead towards the McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo. So we are harvesting with Kevin here with ERS. We're trying to make sure he has plenty of battery juice here when we do decide to pit him for that in-lap. We'll be able to push as hard as we can and making sure that we're getting the best result on that in-lap as possible. So I'll move here. Only one more lap to go before we will be pitting Kevin Magnussen. Still harvesting through this first sector. We'll move him back to neutral to make sure we don't fall off too far off the pace of Zhou Guanyu. And we will be prepared to push him as we near these final few corners here. We'll move them both to attack, and we will go ahead and open up the pit options here. We'll be moving. Oops, almost accidentally sending him out on another set of medium tires. But we will be putting Kevin on the hard compound for the rest of this one. And now we notice that there is a bit of a gap that we actually feel very okay hitting both drivers here. We'll be able to double stack fairly easily. I don't think there's much benefit in waiting another lap with Mick. I think we definitely don't want to fall off the pace as the rest of the field definitely starts to pit. I think I don't want to run the risk of trying an overcut poorly prepared overcut that just doesn't work here, as we see Kevin enter his pit stop. Beautiful. Definitely need to work on that pit stop time. That 3.4 seconds is definitely not going to be good for us in the long run. Mick also does 3.4 second stop. And now we lower the tires. We will go ahead and deploy a little bit. We are trying not to push the tires too much here, as these do need to get us to the end of the race, and we're just trying to take stock of where we are right now. We'll move them both to harvest, try and build up some ERS battery supply here, especially with Kevin, who finds himself in a bit of bubble by himself in a sandwich between the two McLarens. Lando Norris 4.5 seconds up the road, Daniel Ricciardo 4.5 seconds behind us on the road, and Mick also finding himself well within a bubble with Daniel Ricciardo ahead and Nicholas Latifi behind. But we will definitely not want to fall too far off the pace, as there are cars ahead who still need to pit, and we will try and perform a major undercut here and see if we can close the gap as much as possible. But we also know that even if we don't actually overtake them on their pit stop, we know that it will definitely slow them down, and it gives us an opportunity to close the distance to that top group even more so. So we'll go ahead and move them both back to neutral ERS. Might have debated on another lap of harvesting if I were to do this again. But nonetheless, we are nearing the halfway point in this race. We still find ourselves in the back half of the grid here. But we definitely a lot of opportunity here as we see a crash on track. And it looks like Bottas crashes here on turn 7. We'll take a look and see. It just looks like he locks up, runs straight into the wall, unable to get the car turned in. And so he will be pitting to replace damage. And that looks like it should be a free position for both of our drivers as Kevin moves up into P13. And Mick gains that position up into P15. And we are just kind of relaxing here at this point. We know that we don't need to push too much, and we're honestly just kind of waiting to see what happens here. Unfortunately for Mick, it looks like Valtteri has made it out just behind him and definitely has the better pace compared to Mick here. I believe Valtteri came out on at minimum he has a fresher set of tires than us, which is definitely going to be something we need to keep an eye on. We get the notice of low fuel, but I think I reacted a little bit too harshly here, as I immediately put Kevin on the conserve fuel option when I don't think we really needed to worry about it too much at this point. And I think that lost him a little bit of time as he's continuing to try and push towards what now is the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda in 10th position. Only 2 seconds separate him and the points here, and it looks like he is making up pretty decent ground on the AlphaTauri. But unfortunately, fuel is definitely going to be an issue here as we near less than 20 laps remaining. We're trying to manage our fuel, but also not fall off the pack if at all possible, as Kevin is back within DRS of the AlphaTauri.
Haas with an overtake.
And it looks like Kevin gets the move done. We do get the notification that his gearbox has gone below 40% wear remaining. But nonetheless, Kevin is up into the points paying positions as George Russell and Fernando Alonso make their pit stops. And Kevin now up into P9. We are absolutely loving life right now. And we are kind of just hoping to hold firm at this point with only 12 laps remaining here. Mick locks up, unfortunately, runs a little wide, has to cut the corner a little bit, and he'll lock up. And I think that will pretty much do it for Mick here in Imola. As we'll go ahead and take a look here, just big old lockup, and has to cut the chicane and ends up parking up on the grass here as to not impede anyone coming back onto the circuit. So very, very unfortunate. Mick falls down into P16 with a large bubble on his own, and with only 9 laps remaining, I think that's pretty much going to do it here for Mick. But Kevin, though, sitting in P9, needs to get around Nicholas Latifi here on his and it looks like he gets the move done. We see a bit of a train forming up behind Kevin, and so we need to make sure that Kevin is going to have enough fuel to get through these last 6 or 5 so laps. And we can see another crash come through on lap 58. Who is it? It's hard to tell. We'll take a look here, and it looks like the AlphaTauri does the same thing that Valtteri Bottas does and runs straight through that long left-hander and just cannot get the car turned in, and that will do it for him. So I believe that was Tsunoda, if I'm remembering correctly, and thankfully that moves Mick up here into P15, and Kevin is in a pretty good spot. Unfortunately, we're not really in a position to fight for P8, but at the same time, we have that 2.6 seconds behind to Zhou, and so Kevin is looking to lock up another points finish here on the season in Imola with only 3 laps remaining in this race on lap 60 of 63. We'll go ahead and move forward, trying to keep an eye as best as possible here. We're still on conserved fuel. We're really worried at this point that we may run out of fuel here. And unfortunately, putting it on conserved fuel for that long, and it's just gonna open the door. So Kevin falls down to P10 and immediately falls down again to P11. We definitely got a little sleepy here on monitoring this race, and all of a sudden we go from a very solid P9 finish to potentially out of the points. And this is going to be a very humbling race at the end of it if we can't make up this position here. We make major mistakes with Kevin in qualifying, and we make major mistakes with Kevin in the race. And unfortunately, Kevin finishes P11 once again, just outside the points, and that is very unfortunate.
Kevin Magnussen showing us how it's done. A great result. This is a good result for Haas, more than enough to satisfy the whole team.
Absolutely. I imagine it'll be pats on the back all round, and deservedly so.
And they're in 6th place in the constructor standings at the end of this weekend.
Coming up next, the teams will be taking a trip to the Sunshine State. The Hard Rock Stadium is laying down the track for a captivating race at the Miami Grand Prix.
So while it might feel like a win compared to where we started, we definitely have a lot to learn when it comes to this weekend. We made a lot of mistakes here that cost us some very good opportunities in qualifying as well as here in the race. I know I'm definitely kicking myself looking back at it now, but nonetheless, we can only run the race we ran. Kevin makes up 4 positions, Mick makes up 3 positions, a pretty solid outing for us. I think a better qualifying might have seen us go a little bit better on the weekend, but nonetheless, we are here. This is what happened, and we're gonna have to learn from it. Unlike a certain team in real life F1 who won't recognize their mistakes they make and recognize that things need to change, we definitely know after looking at this that a lot of things need to change as we continue on here, finishing Imola and on to the next round of this one. Is going to be very, very exciting. I can't wait for that one to go up. It's a very exciting finish, and I can't wait to see it. But for now, that'll do it for me here. This has been part 4, and I'll see you guys in the next one.